Hey everybody, it's Funny here once again. Hope you're doing well. Today I am mispronouncing Instruo Saich. It sounds like this. Okay, so what is it? It is 12 HP, analog, 4 voice. I want to say super saw. It's only super saw if you combine all those voices, but if you have been following the channel for a minute, you've probably discovered I've sort of grown an obsession with super saws. I know people say they're very cheesy, very 80s, and I don't care. I absolutely love them. And someone suggested to me the Instruo Saich. Sorry. One came up used locally here in Vancouver. And on that note, the housekeeping is always in the description below. And I thought I'd take a gamble on it because it looked really good. And I've been trying to avoid going down the Instro rabbit hole because I fear that they're pretty expensive, right? I mean, all Eurorack is expensive, but like the Instro stuff is really premium and really expensive. So I've been trying to avoid it for that reason, but I really liked the CSL, and then this came up, and then anyway, you know how it goes. Here we are. 12 HP, 4 voices, super saw. I mentioned all of that, but we're going to bypass the filter now and bring it back in a little bit. And if you are here for the swarm, that's not a StarCraft reference, but if you took it as one, I appreciate you. Let's turn this up a bit. And God, it sounds good. So let's go through the panel, and then what we're going to do, forgive me if you think this is a dumb concept for video, but we're going to learn things about it together because I need to learn about it, but the insatiable desire of the algorithm gods drives me to make new videos nearly every day, and here we are going with another one. So as you'll see on the oscilloscope, and I don't know if it's possible via an expander, there's only one output, so all of these things are combined. Everything is super saw, except you also get a square, I believe, pulse width modulatable sub-octave if you so choose, which I will always choose because it sounds really nice. It sounds really fat. In the demo, you were hearing it through the Pony VCF, which is a ladder filter. It sounds like this. No resonance, resonance on. I think that Pony VCF is super underrated. We'll keep it dry. I was also using the Desmodus Versio for some shimmer. Love it. Not underrated, but appreciated for a reason. Sorry, need to get the mix going so y'all can hear me. Let's go through the panel. So, coarse tune, fine tune. These things aren't very exciting, but you will notice that this controls all 4 voices, which we're hearing all 4 of which right now. And you get sort of 2 ways to control it, which is like the way I was controlling it in the demo was via this 1 octave in. And the manual even made note of how lots of polyphonic modules kind of require other sources. I know the Saich would probably benefit from use of the harmonic by them. And again, I'm sorry, I'm going to mispronounce everything all video, because you can send independent volt per octave to all of these. But for me, I think the best way to do this is to create a power chord of sorts, if you'd like, by using the one that controls all of the quote-unquote children. I'm calling it that, they don't call it that, but I just tuned something by ear that sounds nice. Sorry, I'm bumping the chorus knob. These don't turn into octaves, by the way. And what I mean by that is the detune knob will not easily jump into like a unison mode. That's done via a menu. Again, I'll talk about that in a moment, but it's done with the control knob and that control fader. And give me a moment to just I'll say it might just be because I'm standing upright, might just be because the cable's in the way too. It's hard to not hit the chorus knob. Now I found some sort of chord with no science behind it. I just like how that sounds. And I like that workflow. Easy polyphony, right? Like no need for another module, no need to use the Hermod to sequence it in a complicated way. And again, if that is your jam, I totally appreciate that. I don't know if these detune offsets that I just made apply to it, but it also makes some interesting drones, right? I have my root and then a little melody going on top of it, right? I like that too. However, when it comes to like sending it polyphony, I'm not going to cover that today, and I don't know if I plan to go down that route. However, what route I have already loved to go down is the FM route, and sending it audio rate FM, and it has linear. And I never thought of like supersaws as being something you would FM, and I kind of love how it sounds. It just gives the swarm. I'm going to apply my VCA real quick just to tame this in. It just gives the swarm a little bit extra oomph, you know? Versus. And again, it is changing the pitch a bit. I don't envy people who play their Euro rack alongside musicians or other musicians, because the tuning, I just kind of like go for what sounds good. But if I had to like tune to the Western scale or to a middle C or something, I would hate myself. And well, I'll do that anyway. But we're gonna try and switch over to exponential, and you're gonna hear that the pitch is drifting too. And again, I'm not through zero, so like really gonna shift in pitch. For me, stick to linear. I'm using the triangle wave out. If we switch this to a saw, sorry, if we switch this to a sine, just gets a little bit more brittle, if that's a word. What adjective would you use to describe this? I don't know. Stick to the triangle wave, I'd say. But I will say, I never expected to use that. In fact, I was like, FM over. That one must be for like some portamento, right? But I actually think it sounds pretty good. I will for the rest of the video leave it off. However, I will switch over to demonstrating some PWM, and we're going to see if we can do this before we get into this section of the video for which I require the manual. I'm going to switch this into LFO mode. And the problem with this too, though, is it's kind of like, I want to kind of drill down just that sub to hear if it's PWMing, but I don't know if it even is. If I do audio rate, you can hear it more. But I don't know. Oh, there we go. Oh. Okay, so... Oh, there you go. Yeah, you can hear the PWM. And that's just like... I don't know, I'm... really... I hope somewhere down the line I'm going to come back to this video and be like, wow, I really didn't know anything at that time. And learning about anything, learning about modular synthesis especially, is a process of always growing and looking back at how cringe you were before. But, like, we got my super saw, I've got my polyphony, I've got my FM, and I've got my sub-octave, and I've got my PWM, and I'm kind of looking at this thing like it's got every base that I am after, everything that I'm exploring covered. And maybe phase modulation isn't on there, but I find it's a little too complicated for me to get right just yet, so I guess maybe that's the next step. But I'm just going to say, like, for now, like, this is like all of the complex concepts I'm really into right now, wrapped up into one. So I'm really stoked on that. Now let's get into the things on this that I'm not so stoked on, and that is the button combos, the menu diving of it. Because, okay, there are some other settings on here that are challenging. And again, screens. I don't expect a screen on an oscillator, but it is hard to manage without it. Because this fader controls a number of different things depending on the mode. So right now what you have is the mixing profile, and the mix is shown in here. Sorry, I'm adjusting my course tune a lot here, but you see the four oscillators on there, how lit up they are, changes the mixing profile. So I believe you can ping this with a VCA too, or do it over CV, so I'm going to try CV first. Plug the CV in here, we'll attenuate it off. But it's still moving it. Okay, maybe I'm setting it negative. Maybe not. Setting it positive. Interesting. There's like no way to attenuate it on board. It's still going a little bit. Do LFO to kind of make it a little shorter. It's all of them in. I'm going to bring all these back up to the same tuning. Although this does sound very minor to me. So we're probably using an interval mode. And this side of things just kind of is a headache, I'll be straight up. But, you know, it's worth the headache. Modular as a whole, it's worth the headache. Sometimes more than others. But in the case of the Saich, it's worth the pronunciation too. Let's try and run through it for you. So, the control fader, I'm going to read from the manual because I find, even if it's somewhat embarrassing on the video front, sometimes it just makes for a better video. Forgive me, all. So I'm going to open the filter up basically all the way, but I'm bringing a little bit more resonance, and we're going to read. I know, it's a fate worse than death. Fate worse than depth. Okay, control. Fader. The fader can be used to control one of three different parameters. The mix profile scan, the primary function, the intervallic offset, the secondary function, or the global detune, another secondary function. So control button. The control button is used to change the behavior of the fader. If the control button is unilluminated, it is right now. I think it's showing the PWM now. Oh no, it's just reflecting light from the module beside it. Well, that's fun. The control button is unilluminated, the fader sets the mix profile scan. So right now we're scanning through the different mix profiles. It's all of them, none of them. All of them, none of them. And I think if I put CV, you can actually use this as a crude VCA. Yep. That's not an envelope, but could be. You wouldn't get nice control over things, but it's actually an interesting idea. What happens if we do that here? So, a little bit of wave scanning through there. Interesting idea. I don't know. I feel like you want access to all of it. So forgive my patch attempt there, but bring that back in. So again, mixing profiles. If the control button is illuminated white, then the fader selects the intervallic offset of voices 2, 3, and 4. So it points out that when you make changes to the other side, they're retained when you switch modes. Right, so I use my fader to bring it all the way over to mix in everything. I hit control. Now I'm controlling the intervallic offset. I didn't lose my mix profile, right? So now if we go into the intervallic detune, we went through we went through the mix scan, and there's a lot of different modes. Before I move on past that, mix profiles, cascade, crossfade, there's basic VCA, voice arpeggiator, voice subtraction. These will probably also be useful modes for doing the tuning as well, but right now we're moving on to the intervallic offsets. When the control button is illuminated, which it is, the fader sets the intervallic offset of the voices 2, 3, and 4, setting the fader to fully left position, sets all 4 voices to unison, which you're hearing right now. Moving the fader to the right introduces combinations of intervallic unisons, octaves, perfect fourths, and perfect fifths. Sounds like this. And I think immediately we're going to find some analog tuning, but that might be a perfect fourth. Is it fifth? And then at the end, it's different rotation. So let's try and find that fifth. Unison. There is a tuning mode. Check out the tuning mode. For some easy chords, this is a way to do it. For me, I'd probably stick to unison and just manually tune it. Right? For that reason. I mean, this is interesting, but to me, I think this is your workflow. However, I don't think you get a fader for the sub-octave mode, so when the control knob is illuminated amber, I don't know how to get to that, though. And intervallic offset has been set. Okay, so I go to control, set intervallic offset. There we go, global detune. So, okay, that makes sense. Unison and global detune, we want that, we really like that. Control ZV mapping, frequency and pitch, we don't need any of that. I went over the frequency. Now we want to go over sub mode as the last one. So the sub button cycles through the 4 sub modes that affect voice 1. By default, sub mode 1 is active and voice 1 will produce an ascending sawtooth wave at the fundamental frequency, when the control button LED will indicate sub mode 1 while with a fast output pulse. So those are different octaves. Okay, so, sorry. I misspoke. So there is a sawtooth in there. It's blinking fast white. Sub mode 2, control button illuminates with a slow white downward pulse. So I guess that also means that the PWM will only work when you're in that sub mode. It's interesting. It doesn't help that the Mind Phaser is bleeding light into here, so it's hard to tell what color's up. Like, where's the amber? Is that... So anyway, these are the different sub-modes. And I'm going to just say this is my same complaint I had with the routing options of the modulation bus on the CSL. It's hard to remember. And so you better, I'd say, stick to unison, set it and forget it once you've found a good setting you like. But, I mean, some of you are a lot more inquisitive, less brain dead than me, and will remember to remember all these button combos and use them all the time. But for me, I think you want to stick to unison, detune it via the knobs, but world's your oyster, do what you want to do with it. But definitely explore FM, not at alpha rate though. Oh, we got bells. Hello. Anyway, huge super saw. I love it. I think this one, as far as analog oscillators go, has all of my favorite concepts on board, and I'm super stoked to make some more pads because it's a pad beast. I love my saws. Well, actually, I love my pad beast. Let's jam it out with something a little faster. See if we can maybe bring in some more reverb. And I'm Tafony. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that YouTube crap that Alphabet's always on me to mention, to plug, to ask you to do. It doesn't cost you anything, so if you hate it, give it a thumbs down, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.